Welcome to episode 228 of the Muck Podcast. Listen in as we discuss the dark and sometimes weird true stories in American politics. I'm Tina.
And I'm Hillary Doherty.
Yes.
Well, this is our second episode. So listen, I pulled random things to talk about here because we're doing this all in one day.
Yes.
Because, by the way, we're both going out of town.
Oh.
I'm going out of town too.
I didn't know that. Where are you going?
Well, my daughter's starting, she signed up for driver's ed. We don't know if she got in yet, but if she does, it starts the 17th.
They should have sent the email because I got my email yesterday.
You did?
Yes.
I'll tell her to check her email.
Yes.
Which I've asked her to several times this week.
But, so there was a whole snafu with it where they weren't being sent out, and I contacted the guy, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, but you should get it by tonight, and then I got it.
Okay, good. So hopefully she got where she wanted to go for driver's ed.
He got where he wanted to go, which is where she wants to go. But
nice.
We're doing July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, anywho.
Sorry.
That starts the 17th, and literally once she's in school, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I want to do something with them this summer, and then in July they go somewhere with their dad, and so I'm like, we have one weekend to do this, and so I'm going to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we're going to say, well, here's what the plan always was. The summer trip was always going to be, let's go to all the Buc-ees in Florida. You know what Buc-ees is?
No.
Okay.
Is it like a restaurant? It's a restaurant.
So apparently, it's a highway side of the road gas station, but massive.
Oh, it's like, what is that other one that you guys all go to?
Wawa.
I still haven't been to
Okay,
a Wawa.
it's Wawa times a million. Basically.
I don't think I've walked into a gas station store in 10 years.
You are the most odd.
It's very odd. Except for there's one by my house where occasionally I'll go in to buy a lotto ticket.
Oh, cool.
But that's it. I just don't go into convenience stores.
Well, anyway, so Buc-ees has this reputation of being this incredible store, blah, 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 amazing. But they're all over Texas. Kate had reminded me that the owner is a little problematic. He might be Trumpy.
No.
Anyway, when we drove up to North Carolina last year, we went to the first time we went to a Buc-ees, and all of my son's friends, my daughter's friends know about Buc-ees, I guess from road trips, but it's just made its way to Florida. There's only two here. They're building another one, I think, in Fort Pierce. It's closer to us, but so we went to the first time we went to Buc-ees, and it was pretty fucking amazing. The food is incredible.
There's food?
It's like a whole store. It's like a Cracker Barrel inside of it's like a Cracker Barrel. Have you been to Cracker Barrel?
So I went to a Cracker Barrel for the first time.
You gotta ask, because you don't go to McDonald's. Okay, you should never have McDonald's.
So, in the middle of Florida for one of these soccer things, my husband was like, well, there's a Cracker Barrel. And I was like, oh, and he was like, you've never been to a Cracker Barrel? And he was like,
so good.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, it's so good. And I was like, no, I don't. I said, this feels very, I'm Italian.
Yeah.
And this feels it's very, Wonder Bread white.
It's podunk.
And so I'm like, I don't, and he was raving about this Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
So we go in and there was a whole store.
Yeah. You want
there's candy. Store. There's candy.
That's my favorite part. The candy
we got
sticks.
So much candy.
Oh, girl. Yeah.
And I was walking around and wow.
Yeah.
And this lady that worked there, she goes, you've never been to a Cracker Barrel? I said, no. And she's like, oh, I was like, wow, it was. And then I got breakfast for dinner because they made these pancakes, but they were so good because everything is just doused in butter and grease.
The hash browns are incredible. Hash brown casserole is incredible. The food is so fucking good.
Yeah. He got country fried steak.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to. But so it's
like that.
Kind of, but the store it's
but not country.
But I mean, yeah, it's country, but it's huge. I mean, huge store.
But when you say there's food, what do you mean?
A full kitchen.
What?
There's not a place to sit down and eat, but burritos, brisket.
What?
They're known for their barbecue. It's a real fucking thing. By the way, walking in and walking out, they have huge signs of they pay their employees probably more than what we make. Benefits, vacation, 401k, starting at this rate. It's incredible. They take care of their employees. The bathrooms are meticulous. It's known for the Buc-ees sort of way of life, I guess. Anyway, my kids, we went to our first Buc-ees and they were like, right? So we went on the way up and the way back from North Carolina. So it was supposed to be a Buc-ees road trip.
Okay.
So there's one in St. Augustine and there's one in Daytona. So we're going to drive up, go to the first one in Daytona, load up on our Buc-ees, stuff, and then drive to the one in St. Augustine, go to the Buc-ees, and then we're gonna spend the night in St. Augustine. And I think we're gonna do like a ghost tour at night because St. Augustine is the oldest city in America. Everybody, come on, everybody. And I'm gonna go to Fountain of Youth and
so I've never
douse myself. Please, God help me. I'm looking for a cure-all for these bags and these crow's feet, honey.
Give me a break.
Oh my God, girl.
So I've never been to St. Augustine, and I've always wanted to go.
Love St. Augustine.
So this will be.
It's again Cracker Town. Like it is.
I thought it was like old school Florida charm.
Very much so. The little downtown area, and I got the hotel is where we could just park the car and like walk. If there's a cool fort there, the steel. I don't know.
This sounds
great. Incredible. I love St. Augustine.
What a fun trip. Are you so excited?
I'm very excited. And then we're going to go the next day. We'll drive back to Daytona. And I got a hotel room in Daytona. Because Daytona hotels are all on the beach. All on the beach.
Yes,
and so
I've been to Daytona.
And there's enough to where it's competitive pricing and you can get a good hotel. And they have a beautiful boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do that on the other night. And then Saturday we'll maybe go to the beach again and then drive home because Father's Day is the next day.
Oh.
Father's Day I think is the 17th or 16th or something like that.
Ooh. Well, yeah. I'll be celebrating it away as well.
Yeah. So that'll be our little trip.
That sounds fun.
I love road trips.
I'm excited about even though we're going to the middle of nowhere, I'm excited just to be away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To go somewhere else.
It's have something to look forward to.
But I guess with our little chit chat in the beginning, one thing with this whole climate change isn't real. My son looked up the heat index.
Girl, in where you're going?
Uh-huh. And
can you say the state that you're going to?
We're going to Texas. We're going to
Texas.
And 104 or 105, and that's just like the regular, and that's not the it feels like temperature. Like it's like 100. I'm like, how are they playing in that? Like, it's been so hot.
Oh my God!
It has been so, you don't understand. Like I leave for work early,
girl.
The sun isn't really out yet. It's like 6:30, and you walk out, and the air is hot. It's warm.
I think I said that yesterday. It's stuffy.
It's hot.
It's stuffy.
You walk out and it's just hot. And I walk a lot. And on my lunch break, I walk. I walk on my lunch break and then I run after work. And I went for a little while. And I said, well, let me go early because our schedule is weird. And I went earlier than I normally do because I normally go at noonish. I really thought I was gonna have heat stroke, and it was 9 in the morning. I thought I was I could feel I couldn't breathe. It just was not good. I know. How are we gonna survive the summer? Remember last summer? I feel like people forgot. You couldn't go outside.
No, you couldn't. You could not go outside.
You couldn't go outside.
You could go outside now. I told you. You texted me. Maybe it was last Sunday, and I was like, "Girl, I've been in the yard since 6 a.m. I get up early before the sun's barely up because it's so you can't." And honestly, I love going to the beach, but you cannot go to the beach before 3 o'clock.
You can't. You either have to go super early or what we used to do during COVID years, we would go at 7 o'clock at night because the sun is coming down. Then it's cool. Maybe you get a breeze.
Yeah, I think 4. If you go at 4, you got a good few hours and the sun is behind you.
Yeah, but I still feel
it's hot.
Right now it's been so hot.
It's hot, but it doesn't last.
Right.
when it's the middle of the day or 10 o'clock in the morning, it's the sun's right here. The sun's right here.
Yeah, and people don't understand. We're oh, you live in Florida, go to the beach.
Girl.
You don't understand how hot it is. And I have a pantry room in my house that it's always a little bit warmer than the rest of the house. It was so warm. I was making something and I bought a bag of chocolate chips.
They were melted?
The next day, it was a bag. They were all melted.
Holy shit!
Yeah. And I was I threw it in the freezer. I'm I guess I could break it up and use it for something else. But I was gee. And I said to my husband, we're going to have to get something in here because, I opened it up in, the jars I have in there.
You don't want that humidity.
Warm.
Yeah.
So I'm also, I don't know if we can eat any of this food in here.
You know what I just got from my daughter's room is a dehumidifier. And it pulls the moisture out of the air. It's just a little fan, but it pulls the moisture out of the air. And it reduces some of that because you don't want it to get warm and moist and moldy.
Yeah, it's so hot.
Girl.
And we have that back room where it was a Florida room, right?
Yeah.
So there's no AC.
Oh.
And so the heat.
By the way, can we talk about Florida rooms? Because my grandfather had one when I was growing up.
Yeah.
It's basically the back of the house, and the whole room is windows.
Yeah.
This was built in the 50s and the 60s because
when it was nice weather.
It was Florida room would be like, oh, let's be back here where it's still warmer, but we're not outside.
Yeah. No.
What were you idiots
It's a nightmare.
thinking? What the fuck were these idiots
I'm waiting
thinking?
for this room to get fixed this summer, so we'll have a split AC unit, like, and hopefully that'll cool. But we had all these people over, and it was so hot.
Oh, God.
Like no matter how low we put it, it just was so hot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, August is gonna roll in.
No.
We gotta figure this shit out.
No.
And then
I don't even want to talk about the articles I've read about insurance. I start to read them, and then I go. Oh, okay, we're good. I don't need to know more than this. And even in like DC, they're holding hearings about Florida insurance, and I'm like,
it's too much. It's too much.
And the weirdest thing about it is when you see those articles tweeted, like Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse says this about Florida's insurance market is circling the drain, right?
Yeah.
And the comments are, well, if you don't like it, then don't live here. What are you, a fucking billionaire? Like, who the fuck is writing this? This is a troll who lives like
somewhere else.
in a trailer somewhere, like who doesn't have homeowners insurance. Like, don't you understand that working people can't afford it? And that's not how it's supposed to be.
No.
Middle class working people should be able to afford to pay their mortgage and their taxes and their homeowners insurance without having to get bent over and fucked by insurance companies in the state of Florida. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. They all want to talk about the good old days. Well, the good old days, you could come out of college making a decent wage and afford to buy a home when you got married. Like, that's not a reality for people who work really good jobs. It's not a reality for people.
No.
So what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here. Good old days does not mean economy-wise.
No.
Good old days is stringing people up and women in the kitchen.
Yeah. I know birth control.
What
else do you have?
Okay, Steve Bannon's going to jail finally.
Yes. Finally.
Love this. This stupid fucker, which, he loves it. He loves that he's going to jail. He loves that he can be a martyr now to everybody. And he can, because he's going to jail because he ignored his January 6th subpoena.
Yeah.
The justice system, they don't give a fuck about. The government that he is pushing his candidate to be in charge of, he don't give a fuck about. Yeah. So he'll
get pardoned.
By the way, he was found in contempt 2 years ago.
It takes so long for all this.
And the judge was finally like, we're not waiting on the appeal anymore.
Yeah.
Get the fuck to jail. So he's got to go to jail for 90 days, which will be great because he'll come out. Whatever. My other favorite thing that happened this week is that Alex Jones.
Oh God, he's got to sell some property.
He has to liquidate his shares of InfoWars because he was, of course, found liable. The families of the Sandy Hook children that were murdered.
What kind of monster?
He came out, of course,
you want to go cry about how you're losing your property.
He famously said that was fake. Deep state fake that these kids were not murdered. They sued him, and he was found liable and guilty, and they had a judgment of $1.5 billion against him. I
hope he's broke.
Of course, he can't pay up, right? So he hasn't been paying on it, and so the families went back to the judge and they said, he's got shit you can take. And the judge is like, you're absolutely right, and he agreed to liquidate his shares to start paying them money.
Good. And I hope he thinks about that for the rest of his life.
He was crying.
Yeah. How about those parents crying?
Yeah. And
how about what you have done to those families?
They don't care about my kids and like what his kids are gonna have. And I was like, oh, you care about someone's kids? That's funny. That's funny.
How could you even say that?
He is so fucking sick.
When you sat there and said that their children didn't even exist. What a gross. Good. I hope your children know that you are the reason why they don't have anything. It's not them.
Yeah.
It's you. What a loser.
And also, like, another example of when you're in power or with a microphone or if you have power in Congress and you don't have, or in the White House, and you don't have people checking you, right? Like, he clearly had no one around him going,
Yeah. Well, Jon Stewart on The Daily Show put a great thing out this week, like, where the news media needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And he did this whole thing about in court, out of court, in court, out of court. Like, out of court, Trump says, it was rigged, but in court, we're not saying it's rigged, right?
Right.
And he's like, but you know who can hold people accountable out of court is all the news media. Like, they have an obligation to say this is bullshit and call these people out on it, and we don't do it.
Yeah.
We don't do it because they've turned news into entertainment, and I think they need to stop that, and they need to say that this isn't news, that this is entertainment news, which isn't real news.
Yeah.
Like, those labels need to be put on there because it's not real.
Yeah.
And it's not right that they sit there and call themselves Fox News and all they do is lie. And Fox News was even held accountable. What was it, $760 million or whatever that they had to pay because they lie. Like, enough already. They should continue to regulate. If you're gonna be labeled as a news source and you continue to put out false information, then you are gonna get fined.
Yeah.
At the end of every news cycle, 10 million, 2 million. Then they're gonna stop doing it because at the end of the day, they want profits. And if they're gonna lose their money, they're going to have to change their tune, or they're going to have to say, we are not a news station. We are an entertainment group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Such crap.
That's a good idea. Here's another thing I saw this week. This list of gifts that Supreme Court justices have received. God. It's wild.
4 million.
It is wild. Yeah. So Thomas, of course, has received more than, like, the
like
second person was 73 gifts.
Yeah.
He was the top at 193 gifts, totaling $4 million. Yeah. That's insane.
He has to get off this bench. That
insane.
Alone is corrupt.
Like there's other people. Like, listen, Ginsburg's on here. 61 gifts and $59,000, right? Like, they all seem to be receiving these gifts, but
$4 million? None of them should take anything.
Crazy.
Why you see the board off and start over?
Did you see the interview with the neighbor, the Alito's neighbor?
No.
Who called her, Alito's wife, a cunt?
No, she didn't.
Which she's like, I do regret, but she was like, right? Basically, she had a sign in her yard, her own yard, that was like, shame on you for voting for this, this, and this. But it was shame on anybody who drove by who voted GOP. It was not directed at the Alitos. And so apparently this wife
wants to retaliate.
Girl, I guess they were outside their house working in the yard, and the Alitos drove by and went to their house, and the wife comes walking, Martha Alito comes walking across the street and starts yelling at her about that sign and saying her full name to her, the neighbor.
Oh, like,
never met her before. Never talked.
Alito.
Nobody
cares.
No.
Oh.
She had never met Mrs. Martha Alito. She had never talked to Martha Alito. But all of a sudden, because of that sign, this woman, Martha Alito, basically did a background check on this woman. Like, who owns the house? Yeah. Oh, hello, so. Like, names the woman's name, whatever. I don't remember what it was. Names the husband. So clearly has looked into who that woman is.
And who owns that.
And knowing that woman is married to a Supreme Court justice, that's scary.
Yeah.
And tells her to get the fuck off her property, you fucking cunt, get the fuck out of here. Yells at the woman, tells her get the fuck out. Meanwhile, Alito's the husband is just standing there. He basically turns and goes back into the house. But she's like, you are one of the most powerful people in America. And your wife is threatening me, talking to me like this, right?
Wow.
And then that's why she put the flag upside down. And the woman goes,
give me a break.
Yeah, by the way, the fight because they called the police, was in February of 2021. Not in January. So the flag being upside down had nothing to do with the neighbor fight. That was in February. There's police documents. It was in February.
Lie.
Yeah, he wrote a letter to Congress. That was a lie. Nothing happened in January with the neighbor. It didn't happen until February.
And this is the thing. If we get power, we need to regulate the courts.
Yeah.
We need to regulate the courts, and if there are gifts, if there's corruption, they have to be removed.
Yeah. It's the cornerstone, right? Like, we have these. There's a reason why our government was set up this way, so that there wouldn't be corruption.
Yeah.
There was checks and balances that need to happen, and so, like, who's doing that? Who's gonna do it? Come on. And also, like, if Congress is dirty. If they start investigating, are they worried someone's going to investigate them? Like, are you doing something? Like, what's the purpose? What's the reasoning of, like, why you're not doing these investigations? My last thing is, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. One of the best movies I've ever seen in my life is on Netflix right now. And if you didn't see it in the movie theater, I implore you to go watch this movie. It's called Godzilla Minus One. It is so fucking good. Do not overdub it in English. Do the Japanese version. That's how it was originally made. It came out last year. It was nominated for Best Picture. One of the greatest fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. Please go watch Godzilla Minus One.
I'm gonna watch
You don't have to be like a Godzilla fan. Like, yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
But the human stories are so fucking good and brilliant. The acting is incredible. It's incredible. And the Godzilla is like from the original Japanese movies.
No, I love that.
You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. It's not like, it's so good. It's so good. And I saw it on there and I'm like, I said, my son, it was last weekend, I was like, oh my God, it's on Netflix. We gotta watch it again. It's so fucking good. Please, please, please go watch that movie. That's all I have.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
What you got, girl?
All right, well.
Oh, no. Yeah, Tina said it was fucked up. And I go, God, 2 weeks in a row?
2 weeks in a row. Sorry.
Sorry about it.
Sorry.
But the world's fucked. So,
yeah.
So's the podcast.
For sure. All right, so today,
Ying.
I'm going to tell you the story of Sheriff Joseph Shipp.
Okay.
So in 1906,
Oh, God.
Sheriff Joseph Shipp served over the St. Elmo District of Chattanooga, Tennessee. But when an innocent man is lynched,
Oh, fuck.
the sheriff has to answer for his role in the horrific event.
Yeah, these sheriffs, we got a little bad history.
Bad.
I talked about that sheriff on the last episode. And then we know in
Oh,
Florida,
God.
any sheriff on the anywhere in Florida from inception has been shot.
There's been some...
Current. Look at Tony. Gregory Tony.
There's always some corruption
problems
somewhere.
My God. What the
my
fuck?
God.
Yeah, sheriff is a bad word. should be a slur at this point.
The Sheriff of Nottingham from back in the day. Oh, yeah, it's just never good, right? All right, so our story takes place in Tennessee from 1906 to 1908. So old-timey.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with the ugliness of racism throughout this story. So, because this is so old, I don't have a lot of background on this guy, but here's what I found according to the Sheriff's of Hamilton County webpage. So, Joseph Shipp was born February 3rd, 1845. He ran away from home at the age of 16 to join the Confederacy.
Oh, so he's not bright.
So that tells us everything right there.
Bitch.
We already know what he's about. His parents...
Could you imagine being 16 and so fucking racist?
That you're like, I gotta join this cause.
His parents are like, please don't. And he's like, hey, bye.
Bye.
I hate black people.
So his parents were able to bring him home, and then he joined again later on when he was old enough. After the war, he marries this woman named Lily Eccles, and they move to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they become super rich.
What?
Yeah, because he starts this like manufacturing business, and like boom, like it just the explosion.
Why are the
of
worst
that.
people the rich people?
I can't stand
the worst
it.
people.
The worst people.
I gotta talk to you about a show after we're done because
Ooh.
I'll talk about.
I have a show. I have a show too. Okay, so his political career. So he's appointed by the governor to coal oil inspector in the 1890s. And then he's elected as a tax assessor in 1900, and he held that position until he was elected sheriff in 1904.
Wow.
So he also served later on as an alderman and on the Board of Education, and then later on he was appointed again as a coal oil inspector, but this is sort of like after everything that happens because, in the world of politics, bad behavior is always rewarded.
Yeah.
With
fail
positions.
upwards. We're going to fail upwards.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into it. So the major incident, I got most of the information from UMKC School of Law pages. It was a page on like famous trials, and it gives a lot of the detail. So before I get into Shipp's role, I want to look at like what started the whole thing. Okay. So at the time, there was this young, beautiful girl, 21 years old, blonde girl named Nevada Taylor.
Okay.
And she was sexually assaulted. So according to the article, Taylor left her work around 6 p.m. She took a trolley to what was called Cemetery Station, and that was a couple of blocks from her home. And she actually lived on the cemetery grounds because her dad had a cottage because he was like the groundskeeper
right.
of the cemetery, so they lived there. So as she arrives to the gate to go home, someone comes up behind her and chokes her and says, quote, "If you scream, I'll kill you."
Oh my God.
The man then assaults her and leaves her unconscious.
Oh my God.
Okay. So she wakes up, she goes home, she tells her dad what happened, and immediately he calls Sheriff Shipp. And Shipp comes along with some deputies, they bring in the bloodhounds, and they try to track down the perpetrator. So the sheriff asks Taylor to describe her assailant, and she says that she couldn't remember much, but she notes that he was not that tall, muscular, and had a black outfit and hat, and that his voice was soft and kind. So he's covered in like clothing, right?
She didn't say black skin.
No. The sheriff then asked about race. Taylor specifically said she wasn't sure because she couldn't see him, but that she did think he was black or may have been black, but she said, like, I don't know.
Right.
And in 1906, that's all it takes for them to go, it's a black man, right? So the people of St. Elmo flip out and they want to demand justice. They start raising money to get any information that they can. One witness comes forward to say that he saw a black man, quote, twirling a leather strap around his finger. So I don't know if he had a belt, something.
Yeah.
And he's walking around. And this is around the time of the attack and the area of the attack. And they find the tall man, but remember, she says that he was not that tall, right? Yeah. They find the tall man, and they learn that there was a shorter guy that was tagging along with him, and that guy was named Ed Johnson. So Ed Johnson immediately finds himself arrested and brought to jail. And the guy who allegedly saw him collects $300 as a reward, because they put this, like, we want a reward for any information, and he's like, oh, I saw this guy, right? So Johnson denied any involvement in the attack, and he even had an alibi, okay? So he was working.
Oh my God.
At the time of the attack, there are witnesses and everything, okay? So shortly after the arrest, a huge mob shows up to enact their own justice, right? So Johnson hadn't even had a trial yet, right? And Nevada Taylor's brother was there, and he shouted, quote, "The time for justice and punishment has come. We want the Negro. He must be punished for what he did to my sister." So the mob demands this instant justice. They attack the jail. They try to tear down the door. Finally, a judge and some deputies show up, and they calm things down. So one of the mob said, quote, "The jury is in, Judge. We find him guilty and sentence him to hang by the neck until dead." But the judge, it was someone called Samuel McReynolds, says, "Go home." And he sends everybody home. So Ed Johnson is then formally charged with 1 count of rape. The trial begins...
Just from somebody saying, I saw him.
Correct. So the trial begins like very shortly after this, right? And like I said before, he has an alibi. He worked at this pool room from 4:30 until 10 p.m. and he was nowhere near the cemetery train station. And 13 witnesses testified in trial that he was there. They saw him there, incredible. And he was there.
This is so fucking insane.
So the one witness that got the money, the guy that was like, "Oh, I saw those dudes," he testified. Now, before he claimed he saw a tall man and a short man, but during the trial, he said he clearly saw Johnson stating, quote, "I saw his face well and could not be mistaken in it." But that wasn't the case before. He was like, "I saw this tall dude with a strap." Then they go find the tall dude and see that there's this other guy with him that's shorter, right? Now the guy's saying, "Oh no, I saw him very clearly. I know it was him." So Nevada then...
We got this whole goddamn country
is disgusting.
Soaked in blood.
I know.
My God.
So Nevada was called, the victim was called to the stand, and each time she was asked to swear to God if Johnson was the man. She said, quote, "I will not swear he is the man, but I believe he is the Negro who assaulted me." When asked again, while crying, she said, quote, "Listen to me. I would not take the life of an innocent man, but before God, I believe this is the guilty Negro." So the jury split.
You know, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so clear to the point of like why we have certain thresholds that you have to meet when a prosecutor won't take a case. If I don't have evidence, eyewitness, DNA, like all of these things that are at our fingertips now, because you can't falsely
just do
accuse because some dopey motherfucker's like $300. I saw that guy. Yeah. Like that's the reason this man's arrested. Yeah. And of course she feels pressure because the entire fucking county's on her back. Yeah. And I mean, she's a victim. She's a victim.
So the jury split at first. 4 of the 12 members of the jury wanted an acquittal. But after going home and probably facing pressure from their families
and everybody else outside the courthouse,
the next day, those 4 people cave and Johnson is found guilty.
Wow.
So the sentencing, Johnson was sentenced to be hanged by Judge McReynolds. So the aftermath. After the trial, Johnson's dad tries to get the help of another attorney to appeal the verdict. But the lawyers had a really, really hard time. No one would help them. No one would tell them. So, you know, like you have a certain amount of time to like submit paperwork before it's too late, and they wouldn't give them the time, and then they try to go to submit and they're like, you missed the deadline.
Oh,
you know, stuff like that. It was crazy.
God.
And it became clear that no one wanted this appeal to take place, and the lawyer, the lawyer was this guy, Noah Pardon. Like, they wouldn't take his request, anything. So Pardon was this well-respected black attorney, and he worked with another black attorney called Styles Hutchins, and Pardon didn't let the case go. He took the request for appeal to the federal courts. Like, he kept going. He claimed that there were no black jurors and that Johnson was denied due process. He lost that request for appeal. And later that night, his law office was set on fire.
Oh my God!
I know.
It's like textbook.
It's crazy. So Pardon went to D.C. He keeps going. He wants to save this guy Johnson's life.
Yeah.
So now there was a judge in D.C. named John Harlan who allowed the appeal. Okay. The judge was famous for saying that the Constitution was colorblind. Ooh. And Pardon is psyched, right? Like, he returns home. He lets Johnson know that he and this was 2 days before Johnson is scheduled to be executed.
Wow.
Right? So he comes home and he's like, okay, we did it. We got this thing. So unfortunately...
I could write this story. I could write this story.
People in St. Elmo are not happy about this.
Don't give a fuck.
So on March 19th, 1906, a mob heads to the jail where Johnson was being held. Now, here's where our sheriff, Joseph Shipp, plays a role.
He opens the doors?
Pretty much. So instead of placing extra guards or trying to disperse the mob, he did none of that. He even rejected the idea of putting more protection there. He gave everybody the night off, right? And allegedly he knew what was going to happen, so he deliberately only had 1 guard present because he knew they were coming. And they break into the jail. Over 200 men grab Johnson from his cell. They tie him up. They march him across to the bridge. Folks were screaming things like, quote, cut his heart out right here. They get him to the bridge. They throw a noose around his neck, and they ask him if he has anything to say. Johnson's last words were, quote, I'm ready to die, but I never done it. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not guilty. I've said all the time that I did not do it, and it is true. I was not there. I know I'm going to die, and I have no fear to die, and I have no fear at all. I was not at St. Elmo that night. Nobody saw me with a strap. They were mistaken and saw somebody else. I was at the Last Chance Saloon, just as I said. I am not guilty, and that is all I have to say. God bless you all. I am innocent.
Oh my God.
So Johnson was hanged. And then to make matters worse, when he was lifted back onto the bridge, like, his body convulsed and they just start firing bullets into him. It's just like the white establishment and the inhumanity of it all is so disgusting. And again, like for people to like want to dismiss our history and not understand like where we're coming from, and that we're not having, I mean, just what last now this will be 2 weeks ago, but there was a graduation ceremony. Did you see that? And there was a white student,
the father,
coming across the stage, and the father did not want her to shake the hand of the superintendent because the man was black.
Yeah, and jumped on stage and pushed the black superintendent out of the way.
Yeah, I mean,
and she saw it and she was like horrified. This is not about you. It's about your daughter graduating. made her famous
Yeah.
for one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Because it's selfish. It's a selfish state of mind.
It's terrible.
Also, like...
when you want to say, like, this, like, it's crazy.
And also with this case, like what you're just talking about, humans will take any opportunity to be violent.
To be horrific.
You just need to show that more than one person is willing to be violent, and they will all go along with it. Look at January 6th.
Right. I was going to say this. Like, you want to put a vote for Donald Trump, it's a vote for people who think this kind of thing is okay and justified. It's mob rule. It's mobs dictating what they deem is justice, right? And January 6th proves that.
And
that's what that is. His rhetoric proves that.
Yeah.
And if you think there's no difference between Biden and Trump, then you are a fool.
Yeah.
You are a fool.
It's law and order until they say what's law and order, until they want to say what law and order is. Right. You know, that stupid dum-dum Marjorie Taylor Greene was being interviewed last week about those 34 counts, like outside or whatever.
She's so stupid.
And he goes, so you're saying that, the interviewer is like, so you're saying you're going to vote for a felon? She goes, you know who else was a felon? George Floyd. A man who was murdered by the police.
Why is she even saying that?
Just sitting in his car, mistaken for someone else, pulled out of his car, a knee to his fucking neck until he died. He was a felon, but so is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you even talking about? Why is George Floyd even on your mind? Why is he on your brain?
She's a racist.
Right.
So,
you know, this idea of, I've seen a lot of these of like, now black people can relate to Donald Trump and maybe vote for him because he's a felon. The racism that exists in that is so fucking insane. And Representative House Congress member Jasmine Crockett, who's incredible, said in an interview, just so we're all aware, he has 34 counts of felonies. I've never been arrested.
Yeah.
And majority of black people have no idea what that life is. That's not a thing. So the racism of like, maybe we can tie in and get votes from black people because they can also know what it's like to be a felon is fucking insane. But it's 2024 in America. It's no different than what's the story from 1900, early 1900.
Okay, so after this, Shipp is in trouble for his role in the death of Johnson. And this was the only criminal trial in U.S. history that goes to SCOTUS.
Wow.
So SCOTUS charges Shipp and 8 others for aiding and abetting in the lynching of Johnson and was held in contempt of court for deliberately choosing not to protect a prisoner in his care.
200 people showed up. 200? That's insane amount of people.
And they were also found to be part of the lynch mob. Like, he was part of it.
Oh.
So the court said, quote, Shipp not only made the work of the mob easy, but he in effect aided and abetted it. So the sentencing isn't much. So Shipp and the others, they got 60 days in jail.
Oh, wow.
And when he returned standing on their heads back to St. Elmo, he was welcomed as a hero.
St. Elmo.
As a result,
what's going on out there? What's going on?
The black attorneys Johnson had representing them, they had to move away under the threat of violence. They couldn't stay there. Oh my God. So some points of interest. I know
this is horrific.
It's terrible.
Oh my God.
Terrible. So Shipp, he died in 1925, and he was buried in his Confederate uniform.
Oh my! In the 20s.
That's a traitor.
Is there a statue of him in the town now?
I mean, can you imagine this?
Another thing, man.
I know. Another thing I found interesting is that one of my sources, like, that gave all of the background on the Hamilton Sheriff's Office, conveniently left out everything about the murder of Johnson. Like, only talked about, like, all these great things that he did, and not one mention of it.
Wow.
And that's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Like, you have an obligation, if you're going to be this historical site of your past sheriffs, to talk about everything.
Yeah.
Because, like, Joe Schmo is going to go on there and go, oh, okay, there was this guy and he did this and he did that. But, like, this to leave this out?
Yeah. No, it's...
That's selective history, man.
Yeah, well, what else is new?
94 years after his death in 2000, Johnson was officially pardoned by Hamilton County.
Ugh.
in a grove, and so I guess like people want to acknowledge like this tragedy. So in a grove near the bridge, there are sculptures that were made not only of Johnson but of his lawyers Pardon and Hutchins.
Oh.
So marking the spot like where this happened. And another thing I thought was cool was that they like finally like they found like an actual photo of John, not from the killing, but like just a photo of him 112 years after he died.
Wow.
They found it that she was like researching the case and all of this, and like came across and like looking for more like, you know, photos or you know, aspects of his life. So that's the story of Sheriff Shipp's role in the murder of Ed Johnson. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, it's crazy, but I just also don't understand how we don't learn from any of this. It's so frustrating to me.
Well, and it's so ugly.
You know, it's exactly what happened to George Floyd. I mean, we want to talk about George Floyd, bitch. This is exactly the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
He was killed at the hands of law enforcement. What are we doing? And how many people need to die before there's actual real police reforms? And what you guys are doing, because one person dying is too many. It's too many. It's like the blood on the hands of police in this country. It's horrific. Yeah. And by the way, it does happen more to black people than any other group of people in this country. But anybody's child is susceptible to this. It could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And like, if you see it happening to black children, why do you think your children aren't going to be involved in that some way? Or accused of something or whatever. Yeah. Like, is the justice system actually going to do its job? Is it going to go along with this? Will there be cover up? Will there be, you know, it's fucking wild to me.
It's crazy. So, I have a show I'm watching.
Oh yeah, what are you watching?
It's called Eric.
Oh, no.
No, listen, I know, no. So I first,
girl,
I read the thing about it and I was like, ooh, I don't know. But then I started watching it.
Is there like puppets and shit in
it? It is so weird.
No, I can't get
into it. So
it's
Benedict Cumberbatch,
who I love. But he makes strange choices.
It's Gabby Hoffman.
I love her.
And it's weird. It reminds me of that old Jimmy Stewart movie, Harvey, where he sees like the invisible rabbit everywhere.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, it's old movie.
Yeah.
But so the premise is like he's a mess. Okay, he is like this drunken mess, and their child goes missing.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the kid is missing, and he's like he's just not the best dad, not a great husband. He's a complete mental mess. And he kind of like has a show like Sesame Street that he created. It's called like Good Day Sunshine or Good Morning Sunshine, something like that. And like his boy like draws like he does, and he wanted to show him the puppet that he was drawing. And his dad's just like a jerk. And then the kid goes missing, and he gets it in his head that if he creates the puppet from his son's drawing, that his son will come home. Like if I can just get it on TV, he'll see him on TV and he'll come home. We'll find him. Like, you know, like that's because he doesn't know how to deal with like this kid being, because he's like 9, it's like a little boy.
Oh my God,
so,
this is awful.
Yeah, it's like gritty, but it's crazy, and there's all these subplots happening. But then like he starts drawing out the puppet, and then the puppet
comes to life,
is like there with him.
Yeah, I saw.
But
the
the puppet's
of it.
just like the puppet's just like, it's your fault. He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I don't need this. I don't fucking. Yeah, don't mess with me though. Like, why do I need to be part of that?
Some of it's kind of funny. And you know, he starts screaming at the puppet, and people are like, who are you talking to? And like, they're like, oh, we think he's losing it again, and he's had breakdowns, and but there's this whole underbelly with this club and like with kids, and it's really good. It's really good. And this other cop who's like hiding that he's
Did you finish
gay.
it?
No, I have like 3 episodes left.
Okay.
I had to read ahead because like I was like, I can't handle this show.
Yes.
If something happens
What
to
is
the
this
kid?
Yeah.
And so I can keep watching it.
Did you see that?
All I know is I can keep watching it.
Did you see that the woman who was the real baby reindeer girl, the real stalker, is like suing Netflix and that guy for like millions and millions of dollars? And then they showed a picture of her, and I was like, God, that casting was good. That casting was like almost right on.
She's suing? She can't sue.
And then all her things are like, she's been in interviews. It's very rambly. Like, it's,
well, I mean, her character.
Yeah, it's messy.
And he has a right to say.
Yeah.
his experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's all documented because it seemed like towards the end of that show,
and
he's
doesn't
documenting.
give her real name in there.
No.
You know, so wow.
Have you watched any seasons of Fargo, the TV show?
Yes.
Did you watch the last season, season
No.
5? Okay. I think I watched the first seasons, maybe.
That's all I did.
And then I didn't watch 3 or 4. Well, season 5, I'm like desperately looking for things to watch on TV because I'll start rewatching my old shit.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of rewatching The Wire, which is fucking so good.
I know. I need to do it. I know.
So
Maybe
fucking
this summer. Maybe this summer.
I'm going to rewatch The Americans too because that's on Hulu also. But anyway, I watched season 5 of Fargo, which stars Juno Temple, who was the girl, the sweet the woman who was in Ted Lasso.
Oh.
The little publicity girl.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
so sweet.
Yeah.
It's her and John Hamm.
Oh.
And John Hamm plays like a sheriff in the middle of nowhere who is right wing and like women are supposed to be like Bible, goes by the Bible and buys all of this crazy like military equipment and gives it to like militia groups. Like he's off the wall crazy. And it starts off with this woman, Juno Temple. She's at a school board meeting where there's a fight breaks out and somebody grabs her and she sprays the person with mace. Or no, she has a
taser.
Yeah, but what are the ones called that they used to have like in the 80s? It was like zzz, what are those things called?
I thought just a taser.
No,
I don't
not
remember.
a taser. What did we call that? Anyway, she does it to a cop, and you're like, why is she reacting this way? Well, then she gets fingerprinted and she realizes that now she's in the system and. We're like, she's afraid of being caught for something. Like, who is she?
Oh.
And she's this whole background that involves the John Hamm character. It's incredible. But I started to read about the season, and there was all these things on Reddit that were popping up on my Google search that was like, feminist, fucking anti-man season. It's so bad. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this. Like, now I know I'm really going to love it. Because it really does.
I can't wait. I'm going to watch that.
It really does focus on, like... abuse and surviving and men and the power and
I need to go back into season 3 because I know season 1 I loved.
Yeah.
Season 2 I liked, and then I think I started season 3 and I just was like, I can't get into it. But I'll go back into it.
Season 5 is good, and they're all individual, so you can watch them separately. But this one, it does resemble the movie, and there's some parts where I'm like, oh, this is totally a nod to the movie. Some parts that happen, but. Her mother-in-law in the movie is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh.
She's so fucking good. And she's so, like, uppity. And, like, she's this billionaire woman who just, like, she doesn't give a fuck. And she's just, like, pays money. At one point, she goes, get that orange idiot on the phone. I'm about to get my money's worth about calling Trump. And I was like, bitch, like, she's like, in it. She's so fucking good in the show. So I really liked it.
All right. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
I think that's it.
That's it. This is a little short and sweet, but we're travelers.
Yeah, we got places to go, bitch.
We have things to do. We are living our lives. Okay?
That's right.
And
I'm gonna after this. I'm traveling back to bed, so take a nap.
I wish I could. I got so much.
Oh my god.
So much to do, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'm sure.
So
maybe
weird.
I'll see. Maybe I won't. I don't know because I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm leaving in 4 or 5 days.
It's crazy.
I don't even know what I'm bringing. I don't even know where.
It's the worst.
I have no time.
I know.
That's the problem.
I know.
I have no time. But thankfully, I'm off the day before we leave, so I'm gonna just scramble.
Jesus.
Scramble. All right.
Well, we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.